Let me start the record button. So today's conversation is so important and totally different than you've probably heard your doctor say. So we're going to talk about the emotional component of dis-ease and how we can solve this puzzle. And so for those of you who are watching today, just know the original, this is a pre-recorded show. And so this is different. And so this show will air on the radio on Monday. But for now, you guys get to have like a private audience and are part of the pre-recorded show. So fasten your seatbelt because we're going to learn and grow together. So I know that we're ready to get started. Hit it, Robert. Mics are off.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who have been tuning into the show for the last, since 2011, welcome back. Or if you just stumbled upon the show yesterday. But if today is the first time that you are listening to the show, just know that I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place that you can go to when you need a friend, and it is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal and provide alternative ways to heal. And it is my commitment and mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends on Facebook Live, because you guys are getting the preview, the prequel of the show, and Facebook Live. And so you can go to @Lillian's Radio Show, or you're listening on the radio, whenever you're listening to the show, just know that it is no accident. It is where we can embrace our life, take ownership, and live the life of your dreams. And so, as you know, I have been committed to alternative ways to heal for quite some time. It didn't start this way. My show, when we first started, was all about, hey, what's this pill going to do for me? And what is the latest in pharmaceuticals? And hey, what is, so it started to be a friend, have these conversations, but it's just evolved and it's changed little by little to where we're at today, where it's about spirit, mind, and body. I used to think about the body as being the end all be all, and that's what we focus on and take care of and heal. But it's a spirit, mind, body approach. And so, as you know, I love taking out our soul shovels and digging until you see only truth. And today is about truth. It's about a self-evaluation. It's about a shocking discovery when I walked into Dr. Keesha Ewers' talk at the Institute of Functional Medicine conference back last year sometime. It's taken us a while to get her on the show. But she actually said something that I've only heard from the teachers on my show, which is that if you heal your spirit, maybe your mind, forgiveness, you can actually heal your body. OMG. I had not heard a talk on this other than on my show, different people, different teachers that we've had, but to actually see somebody live say something outside of my show was a breath of fresh air. I remember just like waiting in line to speak to her after her talk about how she healed her life and her journey with autoimmune disease. And so today we have Dr. Keesha Ewers. And for those of you who have never heard about this book, it's called Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle. And the 10th caller or texter, and on Facebook Live, it would be the private message. You send me a message privately and be the 5th person to send me a private message on Facebook Live. And you too will get a copy of this book. And it will help you start peeling away at the onion. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Keesha Ewers is here to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Ewers, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. What a great introduction.
Well,
it was so great to see you at IFM.
Yes, it was. And I remember I was just so excited about the opportunity to bring somebody else's perspective than the regular doctors that I've had on my show. The regular doctors are wonderful, but to have someone that I had never met before actually speak the same language. Share a little bit about your background and what led you to this journey.
Well, like you, I used to be strictly Western medicine. I always tell people that I wouldn't have known an herb if it had bitten me in the butt. It was ICU, high adrenaline junkie, and then I got sick. So I got rheumatoid arthritis when I was 30. I'm 54 next month. And, I was handed a prescription for methotrexate and a prescription for a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug and told, when you get worse, not if, come back and we will increase your medication. And I said, is there anything else I can do? I am very disciplined. And she said, I'm sorry, my dear, you drew the genetic short straw because my grandfather had RA. So that was it. Closed the book, put it on the shelf, nothing else to do. So on my way home, I started thinking about it, went to PubMed where we find all of our scientific literature and started seeing if there was something else. And I found yoga, which led me to Ayurvedic medicine, which told me this framework of medicine from 10,000 years ago that we're not all the same. I was able to heal it.
That's right. Not all things are created equal, and not one pill works for everybody, right? It's amazing.
Right.
And so today we are talking with Dr. Keesha Ewers. For those of you who would like a copy of the book, 407-373-5959, be the 10th caller or texter, or you can private message me on Facebook Live at Lillian's Radio Show. We're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Keesha when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Here we go.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Now, here we go. For those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, this is the deal. You can ask your questions. Let us know where you're from, what you're dealing with, whatever. If you want to send me a private message, just let me know. You can also call or text if you want the book and you want to try for both. You can do the same thing on the book on Monday. For if you want to call or text, or no, just today. We can do that today, but because they're not hearing me on the air right now. Okay, so when I saw you share your story, Dr. Keesha, something just flipped inside of me. And when we go back on the air, because PubMed, I love, and I've read about, all the things that you talk about and all the things that the doctors talk about on my show on PubMed.gov, because I check it all out. So this is research. This is not woo-woo science. When did you immediately go home and check to PubMed, or did you think, I am going to be married to this disease?
No, I went straight home, sat down at my computer, which was a dial-up modem. Do you remember those days?
Yes. I remember the noise.
I asked Jeeves, yes, because Ask Jeeves was the search engine, not Google. And that's what I came up with was, I went to my first yoga class the very next day. And I was a marathon runner, so I ran 5 miles to my yoga class in spite of my body just being in incredible pain. I mean, I was just a real pusher. And in Ayurvedic medicine, my body type is the one that gets autoimmune disease because we're perfectionists. One of the things that Ayurveda says is that autoimmune disease is undigested anger. And, you know, my own study, the HURT study, Healing Unresolved Trauma study, actually indicates that whatever trauma you have when you were a child, you create an adaptive behavior to match that meaning you made up with an undeveloped brain. Because when we're kids, our prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed. And so my meaning and my belief and my behavior was, I'm not safe. I have to actually be absolutely perfect. And so here I was, this 20-something-year-old young woman raising 4 children, running marathons, and I was constantly besting myself, trying to be better, trying to be better, trying to be better. Ayurvedic medicine says that's the exact person who gets autoimmune disease. So it's quite fascinating when you marry the science to all of this, and then you come out with, oh, we're just so missing the boat in rheumatology. You know, we're just not getting it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Anyway.
And so that when we're about to go back on the air, so for those of you who are watching, we are recreating as if we were recording live on Monday. So the show will be rebroadcast on Monday. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, just share us where you're listening from, and any questions that you might have, we'll address them during the break so that we're not interrupting the broadcast live. And so I do want to repeat that again, especially with your HURT, your program that you work with as well, as we uncover and reveal your journey with your truth. So we're about to mute our mics because we can't talk while the music is on when we're pre-recording. So
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. Today's teacher is Dr. Keesha Ewers. Dr. Keesha Ewers has many books, but the book we're discussing today is Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle. And when I heard her speak at the Institute of Functional Medicine conference, I was thrilled, to say the least, to hear yet another doctor speaking what we know is truth from PubMed.gov. Share a little bit about how your discovery, or being told that you had rheumatoid arthritis and that was it, this was a death sentence for you, so to speak, that all you had to do was take a pill to keep you what? Fill in the blank.
Oh, all I had to do was take a pill in order to slow down the unmitigated, absolutely going to happen progression of this disease, and that I was going to for sure get sicker and need to come back for a stronger pill to match my ill. And I just thought, this paradigm is not working, and I do not want to be trapped inside of it. So I've got to find a new one. And that's the way, any of us that have broken out of that paradigm have had that question of, there's got to be a different way. And then asking the question that follows closely after that is, why do I have this disease? Not how do I get out of my pain as quickly as possible, which is actually the way a lot of people view their dis-ease, right? Is how do I get out of this dis-ease as quickly as I can? I'm not comfortable in it. I hurt. My life has changed. I can't move forward as quickly as I was. So how do I get out of it? Instead of sitting still, which is actually what life is trying to get us to do, and when I look back, I think of all of the messages I was getting from Spirit that was saying, sit down, I'm trying to talk to you. And then finally, it was like Spirit just took the batteries out of my little Energizer self and said, now will you listen? And, at that point, then I thought, okay, why is this happening? Because autoimmune means I'm attacking me. That means that there's nobody else responsible. It's just me. And so when you get down to that place and say, I'm the creator of this, that also means that I can create a different reality than the one that I'm sitting in right this minute. Then let's find out when this started. Why did I start wanting to die? If I'm killing myself in what I call a societally acceptable manner, I have to go back and figure out, when did that begin? Because right now I really don't want to die. So there must be some messaging that happened to my cells at some point. And so part of Ayurvedic medicine is I learned how to meditate. And one day as I was meditating, I asked that question, and I went back in my timeline, and I landed on this 10-year-old girl version of myself that was being sexually abused by the vice principal in my elementary school. And when I saw that, I said, oh, of course, of course I wanted to die then. I'm a child that doesn't have a fully developed mind yet. I have no words for sex and molestation and abuse to tell my parents. I just didn't even have those words. I was raised with no television. It was a different era, and my father was out to sea. So what I was telling my mother was, I have a headache and I don't want to go to school. I have a stomach ache and I don't want to go to school. I don't like school, which was a very radical change from this very big bookworm who loved school prior to that point. And so, I just remember seeing that little kid and going, okay, that has to be connected to this disease. And sure enough, science actually shows that. There are a couple of studies we can talk about. Sure. But that was my realization, was I should have been angry. Ayurveda says that autoimmune disease is undigested anger. But I wasn't, because I was just too frightened. And then, as we do when we're children and we can't navigate these big events and don't understand them, then we just put it away and make up a meaning about it. The meaning that I made up was, this world's not safe. I don't really want to be in it. And then the belief I created was, I have to be perfect. And my behavior that followed that was perfectionism. And the reason I decided I had to be perfect to survive was because my vice principal was telling me it was because I was a bad kid that this was happening to me. So I would be so perfect. So you carry those messages that you create in childhood into adulthood, and they run you from the subconscious mind until now, with a fully developed brain, you can go back and re-examine them and do what I call reframing your stories so you can reclaim your power.
Yes, and I love that. But here's the thing. Most people are so unaware. People have suppressed memories. People have, we want to blame and marry the disease and say, oh, I am so relieved now that I have a diagnosis. And so now I'm going to focus on the diagnosis. And medicine today is so disempowering. And so we think that because we have this diagnosis now, there's nothing we can do. You, as a nurse practitioner, and that's where you were at the time, you know that you're practicing in the Western model. How did you make that shift? Was it just reading the evidence on PubMed.gov? Can you hear me? So I can't. Can you hear me?
I read that, and then I said, okay, let's give this a try. And I started really diving into Ayurvedic medicine, the sister science of yoga. And it was this revolutionary idea that there was this undigested anger inside of me, because I was a consummate people pleaser. And I remember when I read that thinking, I'm not an angry person, and then realizing that my upset about the possibility that I could be having anger inside of me that was doing this was clearly, angry. And so I realized that I didn't know how to express myself, because girls are not supposed to do that. I was just that typical people pleasing, smiling, to make everybody happy kind of a girl. And, this is something that's quite different nowadays. My husband always says, boy, I would have liked to have met that person. But what came out of this was somebody that was a self-advocate, a warrior for truth. And not somebody that was starting to be mean to everybody, but one that could speak up and say, that doesn't work for me. That's called setting good boundaries. And so now, from what I know, I always say that if you're not setting good boundaries, then you have a leaky spirit. And leaky spirit leads to leaky gut. And leaky gut is present in every single person with autoimmune disease, so that things that they eat, their immune systems to trigger against. And what I found is that Ayurvedic medicine says what's in your mind crystallizes in your body. And so you have to really master the thought process and what's in your mind. And forgiveness became a really big piece of this. And I'm not talking about forgiveness that is lip service forgiveness, as in, oh, I just forgive you. It's this very complicated process of, let's take an example of my sexual abuser,
Yes.
my vice principal, that I would say, okay, so how am I like him? And then I have to pick the personality traits that I have like him, because all humans have the same exact personality traits. We just do them differently. Mm-hmm. And so I said, so what personality trait would drive you to hurt a child like that? Oh, a misuse of power. So I said, so how do I misuse power? I'm a mother. Mothers always misuse power, right? We guilt trip our children. We do all kinds of things that are misusing power. And it didn't take me very long to go, oh my gosh, I do this all the time. It's not that I'm a pedophile. It's that I'm actually misusing power in my own way. So then I was able to say, oh my goodness, that's not great. So then you can say, okay, thank you for showing me that in myself. Now you're equal to the person that's hurt you. You're on level ground. You're not in a place of superiority. Moral superiority is really the place where judgment is, and that's where forgiveness halts. And so when you ever say to yourself, I would never do that to another person, you're in trouble. You cannot forgive them. And so when I was able to see ourselves on the same like humanity level ground, then I could say, thank you for being my teacher, but I don't ever have to call this person because they're obviously dangerous. Mm-hmm. I can still have a boundary that I can recognize the trait in myself and work on it. And so that's called mirror work. And I have that in my book, How to Do This. It's difficult. Only from that place can you then say, now I can forgive. Because now I can see we're both human. I can see the God in the other. I can see the teaching I was meant to get. And now I can apply it in my adult life to becoming a higher developmental level version from myself than I was before I did that work.
Yeah.
So that's the hero's journey.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. How long did it take you to go from, I've got rheumatoid arthritis, to I need to forgive my principal? Because there requires a moment of truth where you are saying, okay, it's no longer the disease, maybe my suppressed memory. And I know that you also talk about the ACE study, or the ACE is adverse childhood experience, that the CDC did something good there in 1995, 1997, around that time frame. I've interviewed Donna Jackson Nakazawa with the Childhood Disrupted. And so there seems to be a pattern that people are rejecting. The media is not reporting on this, that we can suppress trauma, we refuse to forgive, and that starts the process of manifesting disease. At what point?
That's because this is hard work.
Yes.
You know, like that's why it's not matching the pill to ill paradigm. And
Correct.
so it took me 6 months to reverse my RA with no meds. And it's never been back in 24 years.
And so
this is the medicine, and it's free.
That's right. But there are people that are going to be listening to you, because I'm in mainstream media, and they're going to be listening to the show for the first time and be so angry, well, first undigested anger, but angry that we've been lied to, and we've made it all about the diagnosis. Our body is speaking to us. We go to the doctor and say, my body has this symptom, and then the symptom is turned into a disease. That disease in turn is turned into a pill. And then we follow on that, and that seems like, okay, I'll take this pill. But the
When we
people
come back, let's talk about the whole puzzle, because it isn't just what I just talked about. There's a whole puzzle.
Correct.
So when we come back, let's flesh it out, and then people may not be so angry.
Yeah, because I mean, have you ever had somebody, like if I'll say, you know, I'll ask a question because as a certified life coach and you as a doctor who understands different aspects and components of people's life, we are not just a body. We are a human being that are experiencing things that we might, and I have a meme, a saying myself, that the body won't let you forget what the mind wants to neglect. How do we engage the mind and say, come on body, come on mind, let's communicate, and let's sit like you did to reach to that 10-year-old child or that 3-year-old and be able to respond. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Keesha Ewers when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. Call me at 407-373-5959. Be the 10th caller or texter. And the same as you can join us on Facebook Live at Lillian's Radio Show. We'll be right here waiting for you.
Right here waiting for you.
We are unmuted now. This is where that shift of mindset, where I am my disease and versus I am more than that.
Well, people feel a relief when they get a diagnosis.
Yes.
Oh, this explains everything. And then they want to rest in it, and I'm done. And now somebody that has authority over me because they have more knowledge can tell me what to do. And then we're in our childlike state of fear when we have something going on like that. We're in intense pain. We don't have any more energy. It's very fear-provoking. And so it's really nice to go into that child space and say, take care of me. Mm-hmm. Instead of that adult space, that warrior space that says, okay, what do I need to know? What new skill do I need to develop from a mentor instead of an authority that I can now integrate into my life and make my own to come out from this resurrected, into a new developmental state. And then I have this new elixir of wisdom that I can go back and share with my community, and so then we become teachers for one another instead of this top-down hierarchical perspective of this person knows more than I do. They tell me what to do. I do it. And then I can go back to the person that I used to be. Everyone wants to get back to where they were instead of forward into this new place that they are being asked to go to by life. And so that's what an illness, a dis-ease is a call to action, to up-level and to learn a new skill set, because you're always going to be given a challenge you don't know how to deal with yet. You don't have the skills yet. And so your doctor is supposed to be your mentor, not your patriarchal authority. And so that's like a whole different way of being, with your medical world.
But we have been indoctrinated to believe that what the doctor says is final, and the doctor has been indoctrinated to prescribe, not help you go beyond. Everybody is a specialist. And so if you want to deal with the spirit, I loved when you said leaky spirit. I've never heard that terminology before, leaky spirit, as opposed to leaky gut or, all these different things. And so I guess the reason why I went back to that, first we need to accept that there's something that is unresolved in our life, that unresolved anger, and that we are unwilling to look at or diminish by saying, oh, they don't deserve to be forgiven, or I don't even want to look in that direction. And for you to be able to go to that child that was 10, I went through my transformation too, and I had 2 incidences, one at 7 and one at 10. The first one was a teacher who said I would never amount to much. And the second one was my grandmother who said that if I stopped learning how to play the piano, she would stop loving me. Well, I stopped learning how to play the piano. So I took this unlovable, good for nothing child into a world that was an adult world. And so being able to go back there and sit with that child, to be able to go back there is foreign to many people when it's easier to take the pill that leads nowhere.
Exactly.
Nowhere. It doesn't change a thing.
That will fix things. And so it's more comfortable to sink into that paradigm. So I always call this, you're either in the matrix or outside the matrix, like the Matrix movie.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody that went outside the matrix struggled. And they had a hard time, you know, things were not cozy and they weren't delusional. You know, there wasn't this sort of smoke and mirrors thing going on that made them feel comfortable. And that is exactly what happens. You know, when we get outside the medical matrix too, is, oh, I'm on my own and I've got to find the right mentors and I've got to look at this information. And this is the information era. And my patient, the typical patient that comes in to see me, is very well educated. They've done a ton of research, which I love, and they don't know how to apply it to themselves, which is the rest of that puzzle. Because we all have our own genetics. We all have our own exposure to toxicity. And then we also have our own digestive health. And those play in, and trauma impacts all of them. So yes, I did have a genetic SNP for RA. And what was going on in my life flipped that on. I was able to flip it off. But if I were to go back to the way I used to be, go back to myself that, you know, like recover my old self, then that means I would have been thinking the same way. I would have been driving myself the same way.
Correct.
I wouldn't have understood the impact that the food I was eating was flipping on this gene also. I wouldn't have understood that my time in the Navy and exposure to a lot of really toxic airplane chemicals was also flipping on that gene.
We'll talk about that. I want to talk about that on the air because we just want to treat the body, but there are other things that you talk about on the book, like toxicity and all that. And I do want to talk to that. We're about to get started, but before, I just want to say thank you to Melissa. Yeah, we are confirming that what she already believes, that we are not readily recognized that's not readily recognized in modern medicine. This is foreign, and that's why I want to address the anger at hearing that it's beyond a diagnosis. It's beyond a symptom. The symptom is our body talking to us. What we do with that symptom is we could either cuddle it and say, okay, let's figure this out together, or we could ignore it and say, toughen up, buttercup. This is the way it's going to be. So there's different ways. And so thank you for all of you who are listening from Missouri, Alabama. And so if you have any question for Dr. Ewers, feel free to ask, and we will address it during the break. But I know that we're ready to get started. Our mics are going to be muted. Make sure you remember to be the 5th person to message me, and you will get a free copy of this book. Okay, here we go. You can mute me now.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I am your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other each day, go through life with childlike wonder, because the person in front of you knows something you don't know, and that is a great way to see everybody as a teacher. And a person can be a teacher in what to do or a teacher of what not to do. And many people forget the fact that a teacher can be of what not to do. And once you make that shift, I learned what to do, what not to do from this individual that harmed me. And now because of it, my children won't have to be harmed. And because of that, they can learn a new way of thinking. And because of that, and there's so much beauty in the things that happen to us that we do not want to look at and digest. And going to whenyouneedafriend.com, that's where we have this conversation of empowerment. And I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe, and also while you're there, make sure you follow me on Facebook and like me on all the social medias, as well as click on the YouTube video. When you do that, you will get the 90-day challenge, my 90-day challenge to self-love ebook, along with all the wonderful gifts that you get during the show and during the year. So you will be the first to know when you are a subscriber at whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, I want to ask you to please check out my sponsors. Without my sponsors, there would be no show. And so I want to encourage you to figure out different ways that you can support my sponsors the way they are supporting the show. And so there's different ways to stay connected. If you don't like YouTube, if you don't like Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, which you're watching right now, you can also go to podcasts. I'm on all the podcasts. You can also call or text me at 407-373-5959. The book we are talking about today is the Autoimmune Puzzle, but Dr. Keesha Ewers is also a doctor of sexology, and we're going to do a show on that as well. And I heard everybody's ears just perked up. This topic that we're discussing today is very difficult because we do not want to take ownership. And responsibility is a word I use on the show, but responsibility is ownership, not blame, shame, fault, or duty, which is what we want to do. We want to blame the other person for the outcome of where we're at today. That doesn't support us either. And Keesha, off the air, thank you so much, Dr. Keesha, for sharing, because I'm staying in this, going from my diagnosis to my journey, to that shift. And you did it so beautifully, and it took you some time. But for 6 months, you reversed RA. Can you share a little bit about your symptoms? Because what I want people to know is that you had full rheumatoid arthritis. So share a little bit about what you were going through and how the changes in you and how quickly they occurred.
Well, it was so alarming how, I went from this marathoner to fingers that were beginning to twist, and 10 pounds of puffiness all over my body, and this crushing, unrelenting fatigue that I was not familiar with. And so, I talk about every single person being a puzzle. We're all very unique. And whenever you're trying to solve a puzzle, you dump all the pieces out on the table. And the first thing you go for are those 4 corner pieces. So the 4 corner pieces of every health puzzle, not just autoimmunity, which, by the way, 80% of autoimmune disease is diagnosed in women, and it takes 10 to 30 years to develop one. So many people are listening to my voice with unrelenting fatigue, weight that won't go away, and they're actually working on an autoimmune disease and they don't know it. Very undiagnosed, misdiagnosed. So those 4 corner pieces are going to be your genetics. They do matter, absolutely. I do genetic testing on every one of my patients. And also the next corner piece is going to be your exposure to toxicity, which can be bacteria and viruses and chemicals, and also parasitic thoughts. I need you to hear that. It's also mental mindset. So those are also our toxins. And then your ability to get rid of said toxins is the other part of that. Then the third corner of the puzzle is your digestive health. Every framework of medicine, including our own actually, has said that all health and dis-ease begins in the gut. And so every single person with any kind of inflammation has what we call leaky gut. And, we can talk about that for a whole show. And then the last, what I call the missing piece of the puzzle, is trauma. And everybody has had trauma. So far, we've been talking about sexual abuse, which is what I call capital T trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, fMRI scans show that the same brain changes, which is actually brain damage that you get when you have PTSD, is a shrinkage in that prefrontal cortex area. That's the part that is our impulse control. It says what we're going to put on our fork and eat, what we're going to put in our cup and drink, how we're going to spend our money, how we're going to spend our time, who we're going to relate with. If we don't have good executive adult function, we don't make great choices. And when we have trauma, that part gets holes in it. And so we don't do a really great job with self-care and picking the right people and having good boundaries. Now, fMRI scans show that people that constantly say they're stressed and overwhelmed have the same brain changes, which is called lowercase t trauma. So this is somebody that's got a special needs child. I have a kid with Asperger's who's now married, and oh gosh, he's doing so great. But, you know, in his early childhood days, I had to spend a lot of time getting him to that point. So that's a lot of stress. Now, if you perceive that as stressful, your stressful job, your stressful marriage, your stressful government that you don't like, your FDA, your EPA, the things you're complaining about all the time, that actually, if you experience that as stress, will tell the body that you're in danger. And that creates the exact same brain changes as if you experienced capital T trauma or went through a war. And so if you are constantly saying how stressed you are, you're changing your brain for the worse. Now, the great news is all of this is reversible. I did it in 6 months, but you have to really get to work on it. You know, you cannot be in the space of, well, let's try. I didn't even try medication, you know, and what I'm saying does not apply to every single person either. I had someone come on my Facebook professional page and says, Dr. Ewers says that you can cure breast cancer naturally. She's dangerous. Don't go to her. You know, and I just thought that's so interesting. And it was a doctor that was saying this, that someone would take my message and say that this applies to everyone, when my book is, you are your own unique puzzle. My path may not be your path, and it probably isn't. But what I do want you to do is to take the driver's seat. I want you to be in charge of you. I want you to get educated, read the book so you understand the framework, and then go find a mentor that will guide you into that process in your way. So it's not going to be one size fits all. There's not one supplement. There's not one diet. There's not one exercise regimen. There's not one meditation practice that's right for every single person. And that's the biggest message that I can convey.
And I love it. And I love that message because we want to follow certain people and whatever works for them. The moment I say what I'm doing works for everybody, then I'm no different than Western medicine saying, hey, I'm the pill. I'm the pill. But we're not. We all have that capability. And as a matter of fact, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. Again, the kind of responsibility I'm talking about is the ownership, not blame, shame, fault, or duty. And for those of you who are watching or listening or later on, when you go to whenyounneedafriend.com, there is a 100% page, 100% responsibility page on my website that will help you, as well as with the book Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle, and how to transform your victim to empowerment, to responsible, to ownership, to seeing the beauty in the molestation. And how can you change that?
Right.
And some people see that as you're enabling or that you are allowing someone to get away with whatever they did. And that's not what you're saying at all. Share a little bit about how.
No, people always say that. And so I say reconciliation is not the same as forgiveness. Forgiveness is you taking the bathtub plug out and letting all of that toxicity and that poison that's killing you drain out. It has nothing to do with the other person. You only reconcile when the person that's hurt you has expressed contrition, said what they're going to do to make up for it, and how they're going to become safe, and if it's a valuable relationship for you. Yeah. So that's a whole nother show. You know, like my whole doctoral dissertation was on forgiveness. And so this is a big subject. What I need you to understand, though, is you must forgive for your health. you're not doing it for the other person. You don't even have to tell them. You don't even have to tell them. This is all between you, yourself, and you. And so that's the biggest message, is that you're getting rid of your own toxicity. You know, there's a saying that says, not forgiving another person is like you drinking poison and expecting the other guy to die.
Absolutely.
You know?
Doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Workable.
It doesn't work. Okay, be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. Get your free copy of Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle. And although it says the Women's Guide to Reclaiming Emotional Freedom and Vibrant Health, it's for men too. And we're going to continue our conversation on and off the air at Lillian's radio show and live at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Okay, so I can do a show on forgiveness every day. I believe that forgiveness is I believe that forgiveness is key. And so we just have one more segment left, and we can just go straight in there. I just want to thank everybody who's listening on Facebook Live. And so let's enter into our next segment. Thank you for letting me know that. And we'll enter into the next segment just now. And then we'll be done. This is our fourth segment, right, Robert? Going into the fourth segment. Yep. Segment 4 starts. Okay. So why don't we go ahead and get started, and then if we have extra time at the end, we'll maybe answer any questions that people might have. Okay. Here we go. The beauty of pre-recording.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn from one another. Today's teacher is Dr. Keesha Ewers. Dr. Keesha Ewers has written many books, but the book we're talking about today is Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle. Be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. And if you are listening to us on Facebook Live, you can private message me if you want a copy of this book. Be the 5th message that I get today for this book, and you will get a free copy as well. So much that we don't know. And I'm so grateful to you, Dr. Keesha, for sharing this wisdom that you have bottled up, that you took this pain that you experience, and you did the fourth step of taking responsibility or ownership of your life, is using your experience for the greater good and how you're helping others. And so let's talk about that, because this is like a how-to manual as well. And you have a section in your book where you talk about the 4 R's, which is remove, replace, repair, and reintroduce. I believe I can't. Rebalance. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
The shadow, I had it on there, but the shadow on there I couldn't see with the lighting in my office. So let's talk about how we can take ownership and start focusing on the healing aspect and move on to that health that you achieved.
Well, it comes back to, solving the puzzle again. And after you've got those 4 corners in place, then you look for the edge pieces, right? And so the edge pieces are actually, I call them the 4 C's, and you're going to uncover the root causes, which can be in the body, mind, heart, spirit, and story. Mm-hmm. And then the next edge piece is going to be that you're going to confront your laboratory data. And that includes your libido level, another story, but your libido level, your weight, your sleep quality, how you wake up. Are you energized and ready to go? Your relationships, as well as functional medicine laboratory testing. Then the next edge of the puzzle is to connect the dots between that data that you have and the lifestyle choices that you are making that's actually creating that data. So there's the responsibility, right? I call it the willingness to self-confront. And then when you get down to the bottom, that's your last one, and that's create the life that you want to live with intention. So everybody has that same frame for their puzzle. The inside are the 5 R's. And what you're doing when you are working on the middle of it is you're changing the picture, the outcome. And you're removing what doesn't work anymore, which includes not just foods, toxic foods like sugar and alcohol and caffeine and processed foods, but you're also replacing those foods with yummy, 12 cups of vegetables a day and the right diet for your genetics. That's a big one. It's not ketosis, it's not paleo, it's not vegan for everyone. It's what is it for you? Not everybody should be on a Mediterranean diet. Maybe you're not that genetic type, right? And so we can tell what that ought to be for you. And then you want to replace also toxic thoughts with ones that are self-nurturing, that are life-affirming, not shitting all over yourself, right? And saying, I should have done this, or I should be doing this, or doing the same thing to other people. They should be doing this, And then you want to also re-inoculate. So when we start talking about gut health, where we're taking out bugs that don't work and we're putting in nice, healthy probiotic ones, it's the same thing with those thoughts. You want to re-inoculate yourself with positive, automatic positive thoughts instead of automatic negative thoughts, okay? Because they can ruin your picnic. And then when you rebalance, you're coming up with a lifestyle routine that actually is workable for you. Because people will say to me, Dr. Keesha, I'm so overwhelmed. And, I can't spend all this time in the kitchen. And I say, I'm the busiest person and I eat this way. I reversed my autoimmune disease. So I wrote a cookbook. I was just looking to show it, but I don't have it sitting here. And it's called the Quick and Easy Autoimmune Paleo Cookbook. And it's easy ingredients with 7 ingredients or less, right? For busy people. Yeah, so that's how I eat. I'm very, very clean, but I also don't spend a ton of time. So you're rebalancing in a way that makes sense to you. And, do you have a short amount of time that you can use for yourself or a long period of time? Both will work if you do it with conscious intention toward loving yourself. One of the things that the ACEs study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, showed that the CDC did between 1995 and 1997 with Kaiser Permanente was that the higher your ACEs score or adverse childhood experiences, experiences of neglect, rejection, abandonment, abuse, the higher that number, the more at risk you are for these chronic illnesses, but also for suicide attempts and depression and sedentary lifestyle and an unwillingness to take care of yourself because you always want someone else to do it for you because you're so busy doing it for everyone else. The typical person that gets autoimmune disease in my practice is somebody that is over caring for everyone around them, has leaky boundaries, and they do not put themselves at the top of their to-do list. And so I'm always having to retrain people for this. So the higher your ACE score, the more likely it is that that's true. The great news is that's reversible. All of this is reversible. So it doesn't matter how high your ACE score is. An ACE score of 6 or more can reduce your life by 20 years if you just let it go unchecked without confronting it, without taking responsibility, and without rewriting the ending to your book. You don't want it just to flow in that trajectory. And we know that if you change the compass setting on your compass by 1 degree, you're going to wind up in a totally different place. So you just have to break that cycle, which is what the Healing Unresolved Trauma study showed that I conducted, is that you just have to self-confront, change one thing, and now you have this ability to create adaptive beliefs and behaviors instead of maladaptive ones that you have in a ruminating loop that just keep repeating themselves over and over again. Same people come in your life and hurt you. Same outcome comes from that. The same thoughts go through your mind about how people can't be trusted and you're always going to get betrayed and get the short end of the life stick, So the minute that you can switch one thing in that, it all can change.
And that's
just that willingness to self-confront.
Yes. And so you do a really good job in your book. Share a little bit about what people should expect when, doing that self-evaluation and looking at within, so that they too can get to this awareness that this did happen, or this is probably the root cause. Share how you do that in the book.
So the book takes you through layers, and you can digest it at your own pace, because sometimes people are like, are you going to make me relive all that? And I say, absolutely not. You do not have to relive things you've gone through. You're moving forward. And so I take you through in a workbook style. And, the first thing I ask you to do is watch your language. How much are you shitting all over yourself? How much are you blaming, shaming, and judging yourself? And that will leak out onto others. Mm-hmm. And so when you can start to really understand that you are responsible for what you're saying to yourself, that's the beginning. And then it takes you through different layers of that.
And so, but the work needs to be done. It doesn't happen automatically. It's not as easy as taking a pill. And so for people they say to me, well, I did all the eating, and I'm eating well, and I'm eating clean. Well, have you done the emotional work? Well, I'm eating clean, and that doesn't work. And I'm juicing, and I'm doing all these things, and it doesn't work.
I've been in therapy.
Oh, yes, I've been in therapy
for years. I've already dealt with this, and I'm like, but you're sitting in front of me with this illness, so I know you've gone to the next layer. So your therapy hasn't been a waste, but now you have found me to take you to the next place, right? I'm your new mentor. And then you'll have more after me. And that's the thing about life, is that once you get through one layer, you get a little break, and then the next challenge comes. And people get so mad about that, but that is life. Yep. The cycles of the seasons show us that. And so, yes, you've been in therapy, and yes, you've been working on this, and you've gotten to the place you are today, and now it's time to get to the next step.
That's right.
So we don't go from infancy and then learn another developmental stage of learning how to walk and say, well, I'm already done, right? Then you learn the next levels. And so we're always needing to develop new skills.
That's right. And, it's no different than breathing. We don't breathe once and say, we're done. We breathe constantly. Right. We have to grow constantly. Thank you, Dr. Keesha, for everything that you're doing to help us out. The book is called Solving the Autoimmune Puzzle. It is time. It is time for us to take our life back. 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. And you can also, on Facebook Live, join us by asking for the book. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for being on the show today.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
And honestly, everything that we do, every step that we take leads us to this beautiful life that, I wanted to say, to wrap up everything that you've done, if I were to take not only responsibility word, gratitude for the experience, I believe is like the cloak that can go over everything that you do, is gratitude. To be able, because I've heard you say, and I've read, how you're the person that violated you. You made that comparison. I am no different than that person, except that person violated the trust. I've learned how not to violate trust. Although as parents, like you say, we do that all the time, but, and violate those boundaries. And so gratitude is what I just kept getting back from you, is to be grateful. And I believe that, do you feel that we ever get to that place, Dr. Keesha, where we're done? We're done with that. We're done with
then we die.
Then we die.
The thing that, our life purpose is to get wisdom from all this, right? And so I always tell people when they say, really, I'm doing this again, I have to go back to this thing again. And I always say, that's the gold mine that was created when you were a child. that you will be mining gems of wisdom from for the rest of your life. And so, and this doesn't happen overnight. That gratitude of, I'm so grateful for all the experiences I've had, and I don't judge any of them or label them as good or bad anymore. They are all just what God has given me. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen overnight. So please, when you hear me say that sexual abuse and rheumatoid arthritis are in the bucket with all the best things that ever happened to me, please do not think that you have to say that and believe it overnight. This is a process. Mm-hmm. It is a process of digestion. You don't go from eating your apple to having bright skin and bright eyes and healthy cells instantly. It's
or a bowel movement, or a bowel movement. You don't go from
exactly, and you don't get rid of your toxicity.
You have to wait.
Exactly.
It's a process, right? Okay, even that
is a process. You have to digest, and so this digestive process has to be nurtured, and it has to be, taken with patience. And so I just say that to all of our listeners, please know that this was a process, and you'll take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. And guess what? You're still moving forward.
We just need to trust the process. Trust the process is, I have a little plaque on my desk, and that's the only, it's a little daisy holding a plaque. And I wrote on there, when I was going through my transformation and dealing with, the pretty much the same things that you were dealing with in life, we all have things to deal with and how we perceive it. And I remember that was the one thing, that was trust the process. That was what my mission in the group was to help others trust the process when they were not. So that was my pillar. That's where I stood up, where helping others. And I have it on there, and trusting the process, that whatever has happened in your life, it was not there to hurt you, but it was there for you to help others and help yourself along the way, and discover that gratitude and forgiveness and
for you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Keesha, for being on the show. I'm looking forward to our next conversation. And I want to encourage, for those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, please share this, because it's before the show airs on Monday, but the show will be shared again on Monday. So for those of you who would like a copy of the book, 5th one to send me a private message, you get the book. And so thank you so much. I'm looking for, especially the sex show. I think a lot of people will probably enjoy that a little bit more than this, because this is work. It is work, but we're worth it, right?
Well,
Dr. Keesha?
You know what? Here's a little preview, is a lot of this will come up in that show too, because in order to have libido, you have to have done your work to have your energy flowing. If you're blocked by bitterness and resentment, you don't have libido. So it all goes together. It's all one thing. We're talking about life force vitality when we're talking about sex. And so you can't have it blocked by being resentful. So that's the truth of it.
I saw a quote, and it's an anonymous quote, and I wish I could take it, but it's an anonymous quote. It says, "You too can fly, but first you must get rid of the cocoon." And so there's so much that we like to cocoon ourselves in and think, okay, you're the reason I have poor libido. The reality is, I need to evaluate what I'm doing to create that in my life. And that's what people are pissed off about. They don't want to take ownership of it.
I know.
And I love your book, because you poke us in the eye. You poke us in the eye and you say, nope, look back at you. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So
with love.
With lots of love. That's right. And I know you've got to go. And for those of you, please share this, like it, make your comments on YouTube when you watch this. And I know that this is probably not going to be easy to digest, this conversation, but just sit with it. Just consider it. Here's a C. Consider the possibility that there's more that you can do to make your life a better place. So thank you so much, Dr. Keesha, for the part that you share. And thank you all for this wonderful conversation and being part of it. Until we meet again.
Thank you, everyone.
Good. Okay, now I'm going to stop the recording.